My name's Elliot. I have been an auctioneer for 15 years. I've been working in jewellery and watch business for a lot longer than that. So long, I probably couldn't do anything else. Today, we're going to talk about some things that you can do to hopefully make more money buying and selling some of these wonderful things. Let's get into it.
What is your best advice for understanding the watch market? I'm talking about like popular brands, supply and demand, market trends, all that sort of stuff.
So the watch market is enormous. It ranges from modern to vintage, 6-figure watches, 7-figure watches, to watches for just £10, £50, £100. And you can really specialise in any area of that. It might be a certain brand, a certain period of time, a certain design aesthetic. I've seen over the years people do really well selling just Rolexes or just Cartier, just modern, just 1940s, tank style watches, dress watches, just vintage 70s dive watches. So it's a really enormous market and there's loads of space there for anyone to really dig into an area, get lots of knowledge about that, and to then utilise that information and knowledge to help them in buying and selling and trading and collecting.
Where would you recommend people buy their watches? If someone's new to the watch market, where should they go?
So truth be told, if you want to be able to buy watches well, you need to be looking everywhere. You need to be open to finding a great deal on a watch at any time. And that might be through auction, which is a good place to find lots of watches that turn over. We have hundreds and hundreds of watches pass through Sterling Vault, and it's a different collection of watches every month. It might be from websites, from dealers, from other resellers. It could be that you walk past a jewellery shop one day and they happen to have a sale on, and you can see the arbitrage in the resale value and the fire sale that some private jeweler might be having. So you've got to be really open to finding good deals and being able to spot them when they arise. Markets are a really good place. There's lots of watch markets in the UK at the moment where you can buy a ticket and you can go, and there'll be hundreds of dealers there selling different watches. There'll be hundreds of different watches, and you should go with some confidence in what you're looking for. But yes, to answer the question broadly, you really do need to be looking everywhere. But what I would suggest is you want to be looking at a lot of watches, and from there you can start to narrow down your picks. So go where you can find quantity and variety and start to pick from there.
Okay, so once someone has a watch, how do they go about valuing it? And then once they have a value, how would they price it when it comes to selling?
So valuing a watch can be, depending on what you have, is an easy thing or it's a difficult thing, depending on what brand, what model, and what sort of information's out there. Really, you want to gather as much information about these things from as many different places as possible and pull those together to give you a bigger picture. Pricing things like modern Rolexes is much easier. There's lots of data tools out there, lots of websites giving you averages. Search model numbers and you can find however many listed on Chrono24, however many listed retailer, Watchfinder, how many are being offered all over the world. Valuing something that's a bit rarer or a bit more unusual, or something that perhaps is vintage, requires you to gather more data and to connect more strings to kind of put together your bigger picture of value. So you want to be able to look at auction results, recently sold prices on eBay, sold prices from other websites. People have things listed that are similar, and those are good guide points. To get a good valuation, you need lots of information, but you also need some experience to be able to work out where the outliers are. Perhaps something is being sold too cheaply, something is overvalued, and then all of those are relative to your piece and the condition that yours is in and the versus everyone else's. Plus then you've got to weigh in that sort of balance between selling something for the most amount of money possible and selling it as fast as possible, and working out where in there you want to be, because sometimes you'll have to wait a very, very long time to get that absolutely maximum price. Sometimes you can sell something very, very quickly, make a quick profit, move on, buy something else and go again.
When would you recommend someone goes to auction compared to going down the retail route?
It's a good question, and we have this conversation with potential sellers all the time. Auction is a really wonderful tool. I really believe in it. That's why I've done it for so long. It shows an item to lots of people that are interested and engaged in buying and bidding on watches, and it does that very publicly and very quickly in relative terms. There are cases where auction perhaps isn't the best option, and that can be if you have something like a modern Rolex wristwatch. They are virtually currency, as in the price is the price. If it's worth £10,000 here in the UK, it's worth the equivalent in the US, it's worth the equivalent in South Africa, Hong Kong, and everywhere in between. So if the buy and sell price on that watch is plus or minus 5% or 10%, and that's consistent across the board, you can pick up offers from retailers. Will give you a very quick offer. A local jeweler might give you a very quick offer, and they're broadly going to be very similar. The price you achieve at auction is also going to be in that same ballpark. So if that's very tight, then sometimes you can get a quicker turnaround by just selling it to a local dealer. Ever so slightly less perhaps, but you can do that sort of on the same day. What auction does very well is it shows it to not just trade buyers and retailers, but it shows it to other private individuals who will be looking. So that's where you have the potential to show somebody who recognises the value and is prepared to pay higher than somebody else, or somebody who wants to buy it to resell it for themselves. So auction is a very useful tool. It can be used in lots of different ways, from a collector selling something, looking to find a similar collector who values it as much as they do and wants to reach a really wide audience. It can also be used by more commercial means, where people are looking to sell quantities of items at good prices, whether that be to other businesses or to other collectors or individual buyers.
Something that I think a lot of people are interested in is the idea of repairing or restoring a watch and selling it for profit. My question is it worth doing a little bit of light restoration sometimes to get a profit? Is that a possible thing?
Certainly, and some people do. And this can be taken to various degrees. So if you buy a watch that's not running and you put a new battery in it, it's cost you virtually nothing to do that, but you have a better proposition for a future buyer. You've added some value, you've taken away a question mark. That's an easy thing to do. Taking something more complex, perhaps a vintage Rolex that isn't running, and having that restoration work done, if you have it done cheaply, externally, that will turn the watch into a running watch, making it arguably more valuable. Having it serviced back at the brand will add paperwork and provenance to your item, which may make it easier to sell, but may not make it worth more money. Conversely, you take a watch, take Philippe or something quite unusual and rare, sending it for service at brand, although very expensive, gives you paperwork and provenance and takes away those question marks, and arguably adds a lot more value, as well as giving people more incentive to bid on your item than someone else's. So it does depend on the watch. I think any good auctioneer, any good auction will advise you whether they think that's going to add value or not. Again, it may be that it helps you with getting a quicker sale rather than getting you more money back, and maybe the difference between somebody bidding or not bidding. If you think of it as if you're buying or selling a car, if it wasn't running at all, that's going to put a lot of people off. If you spend the money and get it working, again, that's going to engage a lot more people. If you restore your 2011 Ford Fiesta to factory conditions and spend a fortune on it, sending it back and having every bump, dent and scratch taken out, that's not necessarily going to add more value, but it will be the best one on the market.
My final question is, do you have any secrets that you want to tell people when it comes to reselling watches?
I think there's lots of nuances in buying and selling watches, and lots of people do very well because they find something that works and you can rinse and repeat that. We're in a market where sometimes you will find the best watch at the best price, you'll sell it at the best price, you'll make a really healthy margin, and fantastic, good for you, but you can't just go and replace it. So you have to always bear in mind that the wins can be really good, and you just need to win more times than you don't. It's not easy, and there's lots to learn. The best piece of advice I can give someone who's looking to buy and sell watches, turn that from a hobby that might make a bit of money here and there into something that's more sustainable, is to really know your product and to really know your people. Your network in this community is just as valuable sometimes as your knowledge. The watch community is an amazing place. There's so many people out there with vast amounts of knowledge that really love watches and really love what they're collecting. They're passionate about it, and they quite often would love to have a conversation. There are lots of collectors groups and red bars and meetups, the British Watchmakers Association, where you can meet very like-minded people. Quite often those people are interested and passionate about the product, but they're also very engaged with the commercial side of it as well. So if you develop your network in the community, but also build your knowledge, one will help the other, will help the other, will help the other, and before you know it, you will look at something, you'll know exactly what it is, exactly what it's worth, and exactly who you're going to sell it to, and then it becomes easy. Buying and selling watches is a fantastic place to be. It's full of wonderful people and wonderful things. There's so much more to it than just flipping things online. I've met some really wonderful people over the 20 years that I've been doing this. I've made some really good friends, family friends now, so I would recommend it to anybody. Find good people that will give you good advice. There's lots of them out there. Auctions are great. I hope one day you'll come and buy from our auction, but if you do need any advice at all, we're very happy to help. Good luck, happy watch hunting.